Almost every country in the world is in debt. The United States today has more than $38 trillion in debt. This is the highest figure in its history. The European Union carries around $14 trillion, and Japan has close to $9 trillion in debt. And it's not just countries that are economically struggling. Oil-rich Saudi Arabia, export powerhouses like Germany and China, all of them carry serious debt as well. Right here, a question naturally comes to mind. If everyone is in debt, who is the money owed to? This is where financial history comes in. We are in a place where money, power, and history are deeply intertwined, and one thing needs to be said from the very beginning. This system is far more complex than it looks from the outside. The debt is not just money that has to be paid back. It is actually one of the foundations of the modern world. Wars, crises, economic booms, and collapses. All of them are built on top of this invisible structure of debt. And when you start following the chain of creditors, you come across an uncomfortable truth. The world is not really in debt to a single person or institution. It is in debt to itself. But that doesn't mean everyone benefits from this system equally. Today, total global debt is over $315 trillion. That number is nearly 3 times the size of the global economy. So how did we get here? The answer doesn't begin with modern banking, as we might expect. It begins with war. In 1694, England was at war with France and had run out of gold. The king turned to merchants for help. He borrowed money from them. In return, he promised regular interest payments guaranteed by future taxes. To manage this system, the Bank of England was created. At the time, this was revolutionary. Because the state could now spend money it didn't yet have. And the lenders received something extremely valuable, the promise of the state. That promise could be bought, sold, and transferred. This is how government bonds were born. The foundation of today's financial system was laid. France adopted the model, the Netherlands refined it, and the United States used it to finance its revolution and its expansion. From that point on, debt was no longer a weakness. It became a sign of power. If you could borrow, you could rule. In the past, empires conquered land to extract gold. Today, they issue bonds to extract interest. The battlefield is no longer maps, it's balance sheets. Fast forward to today, and debt has become the world's biggest product. America's debt stands at $38 trillion. Japan's is over $9 trillion. And global debt increases by almost $1 trillion every 100 days. Every country is in debt, every bank lends, and we, ordinary people, through our taxes, pensions, and savings are both debtors and creditors. So who's holding the rope? Let's start with the United States. Because its debt doesn't just affect itself, it affects the entire world. Roughly half of that $38 trillion is held by investors. Most of those investors are American banks, pension funds, and the Federal Reserve. The portion held by foreign countries is about $9 trillion. Japan is the largest holder. China comes next. But U.S. debt to China makes up only about 2% of the total. So America is mostly in debt to itself. The Treasury issues bonds. Banks buy them. The central bank sometimes buys them back and creates new money. You pay taxes. Those taxes fund interest payments, and that interest flows back into retirement funds. The debt is real, but the creditor is often the system itself. And this isn't unique to the United States. It's global. Countries lend to each other. Everyone holds someone else's IOU. It's like a game where no one stands up from the table. But there are referees in this game: the markets, large funds, banks, central banks. They decide who can borrow cheaply and who struggles. When trust disappears, everything collapses quickly. Currencies fall, governments shake, people pay the price. We've seen this in Greece, Argentina, and Sri Lanka. And yet the system doesn't stop. Debts are restructured. New loans replace old ones. Because in the modern world, debt isn't meant to be paid off. It's meant to be rolled over. Governments don't plan to eliminate their debt. They continuously renew it. Interest is the rent of this system, and everyone pays that rent. Here's the paradox. If major countries actually paid off their debt, the global economy would collapse. That's why debt is never eliminated. It's kept alive. Debt is the heartbeat of capitalism. And when politicians say, "We'll erase the debt," they're selling an illusion. The real goal isn't to eliminate debt, but to maintain confidence in it. Because when trust disappears, the system disappears with it. But that trust isn't distributed equally. Interest flows upward. Debt becomes a transfer between classes. That's why as debt rises, inequality rises with it. And if this balance ever breaks, the question, who is this debt owed to, stops being theoretical. It becomes personal. Because there's no single villain in this system. We're all part of it. Debt has become money itself. And if that balance breaks, we'll remember what debt really is. A promise that can't be kept forever. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe. History still has answers, and I'll show you where to look.